Losing a child can be a devastating loss for a family, and it almost became a reality for one Frederick County family. While pregnant with triplets, Victoria Sansone had to give birth prematurely a few years ago. Her babies were each born less than 3 pounds. But now the triplets are active and healthy. We have more on how they're helping other families through their story. Having a child can be a huge blessing for a family, especially when you times that by 3.
Move back that way a little bit.
I'm going to
Here you
bat
go.
after Zachary.
I always wanted boys as a mom, and I thought, wow, I had a girl first, and now having 4, I never thought I would have that amazing amount of family.
Victoria Sansone and Kenneth Nelson wanted a sibling for their daughter Alexa. So after going through an IVF procedure, a few weeks later, they found out they were having triplets. But after 6 months, Victoria's pregnancy hit an unexpected turn.
I panicked because, first of all, they went to the hospital thinking I was just going to be checked out, and then they pretty much told me I couldn't even go back home.
28 weeks into her pregnancy, Victoria had to give birth. Doctors said her and her newborn's lives were on the line. Each weighing less than 3 pounds, the babies had to spend several months in the hospital.
I like being a big sister because I get to do things with my brothers and sisters, and I can teach them.
It's been 5 years since Victoria gave birth to Zachary, Gabriella, and Jacob. The triplets are healthy and active. The family says they thank the March of Dimes for the research and care they received. The family is working with the organization to inspire other families through their story.
Now let him do it a couple times.
Although the parents' lives are now filled with baseball and swimming lessons, they know they are lucky.
A lot of times, one or more of the multiples don't survive, and I think about that. You know, what if mine didn't survive, and maybe none of them would have. But I just always was optimistic, and did my prayers, hoping that we were going to be all good, and we are.
We now have Victoria Sansone, the mother from the story we just showed you. And Victoria is the Western Maryland Division Ambassador family for 2012 for the March of Dimes. We also have Nancy here for the March of Dimes as well. Good morning to you both, and thanks for joining us today.
Good morning.
So please take us through the journey that you went through after you gave birth to these 3 beautiful children that you have now.
We were delivered at University of Maryland Medical Center, gratefully, at 28 weeks. However, it was a pretty long haul. We had Jacob was born at 1.4 pounds, Gabriella at 2.4, and Zachary at 2.8. And they gave Zachary and Gabriella surfactant medication at birth, which assisted with their growth of their lung development, which helped them a lot. For some reason, they did not give it to Jacob, and the other 2 made it through with just some basic infections and feeding difficulties, but Jacob ended up with not only infections and many surgeries. He had a surgery for necrotizing enterocolitis, he had pneumonia and pseudomonas infections, and he ended up with retinopathy of prematurity, being on a ventilator so long. So he ended up in the hospital about 7 months. And then when he came home, he was on oxygen to a year. And all the babies were on apnea monitors also for a year. So the first year and second year was pretty much a blur of hospitals and doctors and traveling back and forth to Baltimore. And then after that, we started weaning down to just developing difficulties and learning difficulties in the beginning. But in the last 2 years, I have to say, we've slowed down, and the children have grown beautifully. And with all the assistance of the community, with infants and toddlers and our pediatricians and friends and neighbors and community members that we've known through the last couple years, we've come out with healthy kids that are growing and thriving.
So tell me a little bit about how you became a part of the March of Dimes for March for Babies Walk.
Well, last year, my daughter, who was in 2nd grade, had a friend who was involved with it at school, and she told me about it. And her mom asked me to come and meet with Nancy last fall, and they asked me if I would be interested in representing the group. And being so kind of sheltered inside the last couple years, you know, just living the situation, not really trying to understand what really happened as having premature babies, just trying to survive. Didn't even really think of the big impact of everything that we went through. And we really considered this was a good opportunity to give back and know that like the medications and all the support that the March of Dimes gives to the families with premature babies, this was a very good opportunity to help with the community and do that.
And Nancy, it seems like some parents, there are a lot of parents that have Victoria's similar story. Can you explain how the March of Dimes walk is helping with that?
Sure. The mission of the March of Dimes is to prevent premature birth, birth defects, and infant mortality. And so the March for Babies raises funds. And we have family teams, we have a lot of companies that take part in our walks, and they go out and they raise money. And that money funds our research and our advocacy, community grants, and education. So a lot of our research benefits these babies. In the case of Victoria, she mentioned surfactant therapy. And surfactant therapy was developed through research funded by the March of Dimes. And that has had a tremendous impact on children such as the triplets and many of the children that we see today who are born prematurely. In our counties here in Western Maryland, a lot of our funds go into local print materials for OBGYN offices, for high-risk prenatal offices, for the health departments, for Emeritus Health and Frederick Memorial Hospital. And all of that goes towards trying to improve birth outcomes.
Thank you so much for both of you just for joining us this morning. And for anyone that wants information for any upcoming walks in the area, what is the website that they can go to?
It's www.marchforbabies.org. The Hagerstown Walk is next Saturday on April 28th, and the Frederick County Walk is on Sunday, April 29th.
And we also have teams from WHAG joining in those walks as well. Thank you thanks for joining us both, and we're going to have more right after the break.